Okay, friends, please let's start. So please sit down. Thank you very much. Thank you. So welcome to the press conference, 60th Berlin Film Festival. We have wonderful guests, and I'll introduce them to you. I'm starting as from your left. Please welcome the producer, Kate Solomon. Welcome to Berlin. And this guy is played by Daniel Bruhl in the film, but we have the real one, the real engineer from the flight, Jacques Lemoine. And of course, a warm welcome to Daniel Bruhl playing what you will do. Actress who played Rosamund Pike. Welcome. And the actor who played Jabba, Berlinale. Welcome to Berlin. And next to me is the director, José Padilha. Welcome. So, more questions, but okay, there's one.
It's a question to Mr. Padilha. I know your career, I support your films since the beginning because I know your attitude about hot subjects. And about this film, 7 Days in Entebbe, I like as a period historical political film, also as a genre film, and the casting is great, it's absolutely great, especially the Jewish actor, but also all the actors are there. And so, a couple of questions. Did you make a lot of research to make this film? Because it's such effective in a different side, especially inside the Israeli government, dialectics. It's a study of culture also, not only a film, a genre film or a period film. And the second question is, what is the importance of this film in the current situation? Political current situation now, in this year, everybody knows about the situation of the terrorism and all this. And everybody knows about the Middle East situation. Can you tell something about this, please?
Right. Well, first the research. When I didn't originate this project, I received the screenplay that Kate Solomon and Entebbe sent me. I read the screenplay. It was incredibly well-written script by Gregory Burke. And the screenplay from the beginning was telling two parallel stories. It was telling the story of the hijackers and the relationship with the hostages. It was also telling the story of the cabinet in Israel, in particular the fights between Rabin and Peres and the discussions whether to negotiate or not negotiate. So Kate had done an amazing amount of research. She had already interviewed hostages, and there was a book written by Professor Saul Davis, who also was very well researched. So I read the book, I went to London, I met Kate and Tim, and then I went to Israel with Kate. And in Israel, then, I did more research because I wanted to find out whether the book was accurate and so on. And in Israel, I met a lot of people. I met some hostages that I spoke to. I met most of the people who were actually in the plane, the Israeli military, Sayrat Makal. I met Ehud Barak, who was Prime Minister of Israel. We spoke with him for 2 days. He was also part of the operation, and he was a very good friend of Yoni Netanyahu. In short, met Yuval Rabin. We talked to a lot of people to do the research of this movie. It was important to have facts accurately, especially because the official narrative of this, the standard narrative is a military story. It's the story of a military feat. And in Greg's script, already there was a moment where Boze decides that his priority is not to kill the hostages, and he actually tells them, he tells Jacques Lemoine, who is here, to lay down. And he points his weapon, so he decided not to make killing the hostages his priority. Now, this is not in the official narrative. So I had to check this out, and it's true. And then, regarding the importance of this, when you look at Rabin in Paris and you see the dynamic, you realize how difficult it is for a politician in Israel to negotiate. So let me put it in a succinct way. For an Israeli soldier, to be brave is to do what Yoni did. Get on a plane, risk your life to save your countrymen. For an Israeli politician to be brave is to do what Rabin did. Be able and have the courage to sit on a table to negotiate. And Rabin was actually killed on the contest of trying to do this in Oslo. So what you learn, what's important is you learn that even though Rabin thought the operation was doubtful, he had to approve it, because not approving it would be a political problem for him. Now, this is true of the dynamic of Israel and Palestine today. It's very difficult for a Palestinian or for an Israeli politician to negotiate, because they lose political standing in their countries. Like another example, Ehud Barak made a proposal to Yasser Arafat in Camp David, and Yasser Arafat said no, even though the proposal was regarded as being a good proposal. But Arafat couldn't take it because it would hurt him politically. So what's the message here? In this recurrent conflict, it's very easy for politicians to present themselves as, I'm going to defend you against the enemy. And once you frame the relationship as a relationship like that to enemies, it becomes hard to negotiate. That's still true today.
Thank you. Next one on the left.
Hi, here, Zé, Filmaço, Rodrigo Fonseca from TV Globo Brazil. Congratulations. Two questions. First of all, I would like that you tell us a little bit about your partnership with Lula Carvalho, the cinematographer, and Daniel Rezende, your editor in this film. And the second thing, watching the movie yesterday, I had the sensation I was watching a real good Costa Gavras films from the 70s. I would like to learn if Costa Gavras had an impact to you in this case, in terms of style especially.
Right, so talking about Costa Gavras, I mean, you know this, when I was here 10 years ago and I got the Golden Bear from Costa Gavras. So I love Costa Gavras, if only for that matter. But no, Costa Gavras is a left-wing filmmaker, very important in Latin America. He did Missing, he did Zed. Those are great movies. So if you compare any movie of mine to a Costa Gavras movie, you just made me happy. I love him.
That's the idea.
Yeah, so thank you. And yeah, so what was the second question?
About Lula and
Yeah, you know, when I did my first film, was a documentary called Buzz 174, and I met with Jonathan Demme, Silence of the Lambs director, and I said, Jonathan, I want to do a fictional movie. What do you think? And Jonathan said, listen, I'll tell you the truth. In order to be a director, you have to be a good actor. You hire a great DP and a great editor, and then you pretend you know what you're doing. That's basically what I've been doing for the last 15 years. So Lula Carvalho, I can't work without him, and neither Daniel Rezende.
Thank you. There's one on the right.
Entebbe from the Israeli daily Israel Hayom. Two questions to the director. First of all, it's not the first film about the operation. It was already filmed in the 70s. What do you think about the old films? Why did you decide to do another film nowadays? And why did you use a modern dance, which is coming from these days, in a very historical film? Et puis une question à M. Lavoine, qu'est-ce que vous pensez par rapport à l'authenticité de ce film?
So I'm going to reply then first. Well, it wasn't I didn't originate this project. This project started with Ron Halpern and Tim Levin, who were here. So it was their idea to make this movie, and I think it was a great idea because they thought that there was a narrative of this story that had been missing. It was, most of the other movies are told from the military perspective, and they show you a history of heroism, of a gigantic military feat, and they kind of ignored the interaction between the hostages and the hijackers, and also the political aspects in Israel. So that's on itself a reason to make the movie. As for the Batsheva dance, in my first reply to the gentleman here, I said that there is a constant state of fear in both Israelis and Palestinian populations because of the conflict, and this fear is preyed upon by right-wing politicians and radical politicians who present themselves as vote for me and I'll defend you from the enemy. Kind of like Trump, who's going to build a wall to defend America from whomever, I don't know. So that kind of thing is common, right, in politics. I thought that I could use the dance to make a comment on that. So what is the dance? You see the dancers dressed in Orthodox clothes. They step on stage, and as they dance, they make movements that suggest self-inflicting pain. And as the dance progresses, they strip themselves of their clothes, meaning they strip themselves of their orthodoxy, and somehow get freed of the very political constraints that go against negotiations. One dancer doesn't do that. This dancer keeps falling from the chair, as if he's being shot. So it's a cinematic, visual way of trying to convey an idea that's implicit in the movie itself. Jack? He asked if the movie is authentic.
Oui, je réponds ici, là. Ah oui, pardon, oui. Bon, je vous réponds en français. J'ai vu les deux films américains il y a 42 ans. Je ne les ai pas trouvés très bons. Le film israélien avait des moments de forte intensité qui me rappelaient exactement la situation que j'avais vécue. Ce film, je l'ai trouvé très bon. Et nous étions 3 générations de moines à regarder ce film, et notre avis a été unanime, excellent film. Pour moi, c'est un excellent film qui aborde les aspects des otages, de l'équipage d'Air France, des problèmes posés au gouvernement israélien. Vous me posez la question comment j'ai trouvé ce film, c'est ça, non?
Ele acaba de dizer que é o único filme sobre esse assunto que ele achou de fato autêntico.
Et en particulier, j'ai apprécié les transitions qui avaient été inventées avec ce ballet israélien. Oui, ça correspond très bien à ce qui s'est passé.
You need to take the microphone. We can't transmit.
Cristiane Vieira, I work for the DW in Portuguese for Africa. My question is about the role of Uganda in the events of 1976. I would like to know your personal view about the role played by Uganda and why did you decide to present it this way? And the second question would be why not filming it in Entebbe?
Right. So I'll start with the second question. We were planning to go to Entebbe to take a look at the old terminal to see if we could film there, Kate and I. But we got a call from a mere offer, the first officer who stepped into the terminal and killed the terrorist. And he told us that the terminal had just been demolished. So I would go to Entebbe and there would be nothing there. So I didn't. As for Uganda, it's pretty much what happened. Yeah, Idi Amin was training the Israeli army before this event. So Idi Amin was a fan of Israel. Then he asked for military aid to buy more airplanes, and Israel said no to it. This created let's say, a grudge between Idi Amin and Israel. And he got together with the Palestinians because he was looking for money from Arab allies and from Russians, and he decided to embark in this crazy endeavor. So it's pretty much the way it happened. Now, Idi Amin is a very folkloric character, and Tim suggested Nonzo to play him. Nonzo is an amazing actor, perfect role, perfect for Idi Amin, so I thought it came across correctly. Now, let me say something to you guys. A movie is made collectively by a lot of people, and I'm really curious to hear what my friends here have to say, so don't ask questions just for me.
There will be questions with the actors, I'm pretty sure. Maybe the next one on the left, hopefully.
Yeah, Filippo Pitanga from Brazil, and continuing the question before from my colleague, a Brazilian one, about the staff of the movie. For